You know that you are extensions of source energy. You have been hardwired. Well, really, you're not hardwired. There's not a cord coming to you from source. It is more radioed. You are extensions of source energy. And when you're in alignment with this high frequency, pure positive, low resistance energy, you're thriving. You feel wonderful. That's what passion and enthusiasm and love and appreciation and joy, that's what those emotions mean. You are allowing your connection fully. Negative emotion means while that connection will always be there to some degree, you will never be able to disconnect from it. Sometimes by virtue of what you've been chewing on, thinking about, believing, beating the drum of, talking about, watching on television, writing memos about, that stuff that you've been holding consistently in your vibration sets up a vibrational pattern which sometimes is so different from the energy of your source that you've introduced resistance into your vibrational pattern. And all negative emotion is about that. Now, some of it feels worse than others because some of it is more resistant than others. An emotion like grief or an emotion like powerlessness, those are the most uncomfortable of the vibrational range that you are experiencing because those are the patterns of vibration that hold you in the longest and in the deepest disconnection, too strong of word, from that which you really are. So let's say that you are in this place for whatever reason, something's happened around you, and you are in this place of grief, powerlessness, suffocating. And you can hardly get a breath of air. You don't know what to do about it. You're fitful. Nothing seems to help. And even though you know you want to feel better, you don't seem to have access to the thought. It feels to you like your thoughts are thinking you, rather than you are thinking your thoughts. So for you to say to yourself, or for someone else to say to you, well, friend, be joyful, you'd like to say, well, friend, drop dead. Because as much as you would like that, you want it more than life itself, because it is life itself. You can't find it. And what we're wanting to say to you is, that's all right. Don't beat up on yourself because you can't find that from that. It is illogical that you could. And what we really want you to hear is that law of attraction says you can't. Law of attraction says that you cannot be, for whatever reason, beating the drum of one vibration and easily jump to another. People have quantum leaps from time to time, but it's under very extraordinary circumstances, and we don't really recommend it. You almost would need a lobotomy. You would need a complete infusion of something entirely different. It rarely works in any way that is long-lasting. And so, instead of reaching for something that is literally impossible, why not say to yourself, I just want to feel a little bit better. I want some relief. And the thing that we want to give you here today is that if you could get really mad at somebody in the middle of your depression, you'd feel better. And we also want you to know that you have access to rage from depression, where you don't have access to bright, fluffy sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops joy. So, in the middle of your depression, find something that makes you feel better. And here's the message that we're really wanting you to hear. Nobody but you can know the vibrational variance, and nobody but you can feel the emotional improvement. Only you know that when you got really mad, even though you don't want to stay mad, when you got really mad, you could begin to breathe again. It was a relief to you, and therefore it was an improved choice. Now, what happens with so many, sometimes your counselor, or sometimes your mother, or sometimes your teacher, or sometimes your friend, sometimes your lover, sometimes someone who is used to you being joyful and wants you to be joyful and remembers you when you were joyful and in fact married you because you were joyful, now sees you in your funk or in your depression. Sometimes they are not very patient with you while you are moving from your depression into your anger. But we want it not to matter to you what anybody outside of you is saying about it, because only you know that that anger, that rage, that focused anger is an improvement over the deep depression that you were feeling. And what we want you to begin doing, and you'll hear a lot of it here today, we want you to take that angry step and stop with a feeling of control and say to yourself, this choice was a good one. I feel better. Because when you do that, you're back in control of your own experience. Now your thoughts are not dragging you around anymore. Now you're saying, I don't know how I got there and it doesn't really matter. Or I do know how I got there, but it doesn't really matter. And I can do something about this. I can at least get some air. And so then stay there for an hour or a day. Stay there for a little while and keep patting yourself on your back and say to everyone, I am furious and I feel so much better than I did yesterday. In other words, make sure that you acknowledge that this was a conscious decision on your part, because we want you to hear there is nothing in all of the universe that will make you feel worse than the feeling of not having your own power. And when something happens to someone and it makes you feel bad, then you get in this lost place where you say, I feel so awful, I cannot breathe, but I cannot control the circumstances. What's going to keep me from getting there again? And that's when you get into that endless trap of trying to control circumstances so that you can feel better. You try to protect yourselves and others you love from things that you cannot possibly protect yourselves from. You cannot control circumstances. And if the way you feel depends upon controlling circumstances, then you're always going to be in a world of hurt. But if you get in a world of hurt and you show yourself that it doesn't hurt so bad to be angry, now you're not powerless. Now you say, I can control at least to some extent the way I feel. And then here's the best part of all of this. If your new mantra, and please let it be, it will serve you so very well. If your new mantra is, I'm just going to reach for the best thought I can find. I'm going to make the best of it. I'm just going to make the best of it. And stop and say, I am mad as hell. I am so angry. And then smile if you can and say, and I'm making the best of where I am. This is the best I can do from where I am. And I don't care if it's not good enough for you, and I don't care if it's not good enough for you, and I don't care if it's not good enough for you, because you can't vibrate in me. Only I know I've made a huge improvement just now. And then, don't stop there. Then keep saying, I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to make the best of it. And what you begin to discover is there are things that you are so angry about that you could spit nails. And there are things that you are so angry about that it is irritating. And there are things that really bother you. In other words, the range of anger is quite a flexible thing, isn't it? And so some of it is very, 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 very heavy anger. Some of it is not so heavy anger. And so what you're doing, you're reaching for the least angry that you can find. And so you can go from deep depression to this rage, and it's an improvement. And then you can go from rage to anger, and that's an improvement. And then you can go from anger to deep resentment and irritation, and that's an improvement. And then you can go from deep resentment and irritation to incredible frustration. And then you can go from incredible frustration to a feeling of overwhelmment. And then you can go from a feeling of overwhelmment to a feeling of fitfulness. And then you can go from a feeling of fitfulness to a feeling of hopefulness, maybe pessimism. Then you can go from a feeling of hopefulness, maybe pessimism, to a feeling of less pessimistic, a little more hopeful. And then you can go from a feeling of hopeful to a feeling of, well, it might maybe work possibly. From a feeling of, well, it might maybe work possibly, to a feeling of slight anticipation, to a feeling of sort of thinking that it might work, into a feeling of maybe believing that it probably possibly might sort of maybe work, to a feeling of seeing that it's sort of working, to a feeling of believing that it's working, to a feeling of knowing that all is well. But you don't get there all at once. So when you decide that you're going to take control of the way you feel and you're going to reach for the best feeling that you can find, it is our promise to you that no matter where you are starting, some of you here today might be over in this place. And if we were to talk with you for the whole gathering, we might only move you into rage. But friends, that would be an improvement. Some of you are up here in overwhelmment and aggravation, and we can get you right into ecstasy and joy almost instantly. The thing we want you to understand is you can't compare yourself to anybody else. Nobody else knows. They weren't born with your guidance system. You were born with your guidance system. You were born with the mechanism to let you know what the vibrational content of your emitting is in any moment. So the vantage point that we think would be most helpful for you is, here I stand in my physical body, you say, and I am a vibrational allower of good things. And as I tune my tuner to something that feels good, I don't even have to think specific thoughts. I just have to reach for something that feels better than wherever I am right now. Then I am working toward allowing, and every effort nets you something. Your life begins improving and moving toward what you want in the moment that you do that. We tease you with that analogy by saying, so you're in Phoenix and you're headed for San Diego. It's about 400 miles. And about halfway is Yuma. And when you find yourself in Yuma, you don't throw a fit. No, I want San Diego. I want to be in San Diego. Why am I in Yuma? Because you understand that if you keep your eye on the goal of San Diego, that you will be in San Diego. And you don't flip out because you're in Yuma. And yet, so often we see you in this place that is less than what you want, sort of flipping out because you're there, instead of understanding that you're on your way to where you want to go. And if you will keep your eye on where you're going and look forward to being there rather than beating the drum of unhappiness about where you are, you get there ever so much more quickly. You're always on your way somewhere, and the key is to find a way of being happy wherever you are on your way to where you really want to be. And we're not speaking about Phoenix or San Diego now. We're not even speaking about the money you want or the body you want or the lover you want or the work environment you want. We're speaking of the state of being that you want. It does not matter where you are. Where you are is shifting constantly, but you must turn your attention to where you want to go. And that's the difference between making the best of something and making the worst of something. Somehow, so many of you have come to this place where you are justifying things improving by pointing out how bad things are. And the moment you turn to justify, you start going in the wrong direction. You always got to reach for the thought that feels better. And as you do that, you allow the natural well-being that is yours. It is our promise to you that you expected when you came forth. It is our promise to you that you are improving life experience constantly. There is no possible way that you could be on the leading edge of thought without source energy that creates worlds assisting in the improvement of your life experience. There is no slipping back. But the reason that it feels like it's slipping back is because your environment gives you bigger goals, and then the range between where you want to be and where you are gets stronger. We've enjoyed this interaction immensely.